Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing fine. So this is part 2 for chapter 2, grade 6 CBSE, from hunting, gathering to growing food. So in the last class, we covered these 3 subtopics and we're going to talk about the next few topics today. So we even read about how you can learn the tricks related to Paleolithic age, Mesolithic age, and also Neolithic age. If you've missed the last video, please check out the last video where I've talked about Kurnul caves. This is a location that you can see. It's a Paleolithic site, and this is the location. They're located in Andhra Pradesh. So if we talk about this Kurnul cave, here the archaeologist found evidence of ash, which gives us the idea that at that time people started to use fire. Might be in the cave they started to use the fire for 3 purposes. The first is as a source of light. The second is to roast the meat. And the third is to scare the animals. So we've found this is how we try to join the dots. In these caves we've started to have we found ash. Now let's talk and move ahead. Since they started to exist in the caves and they knew the art of fire. We already read that they might have made use of this wood using those special tools that they develop with the help of stones, with the help of bones. Now as the time continued, we'll move ahead and we'll see the environment changed. Around 12,000 years ago, there was a major change in the climate of the world. We had comparatively better conditions for the existence. And if we have better conditions for the existence of human beings, definitely the animals would even come to existence. So in return, we saw more number of deer, antelope, goat, sheep, cattle who could survive on this grass, which in turn came into existence because of the changing environmental conditions. So of course the people had to do something with these animals. So they learned how to hunt them. They used them for their food. They learned more about their breeding season. They also learned how to do fishing. And when they started to look at these animals, that is when they started to think of rearing them. Because this is a ready source of food for them. So they started to gather all the animals and started to rear them, which is quite an interesting job. Back then, to bring close all the animals till they're fully grown, that's rearing. And in order to make sure that you make them travel to different locations so that they can eat the grass and protect them from the wild animals, you are involved in taking care of them. So they started with rearing and herding. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, today's session. We are talking of rearing, herding, and farming. Now this was the time when the conditions were right for the growth of different crops. And we saw the growth of barley and rice naturally. And then everybody, the men, women, the children, everyone engaged themselves in collecting this food. They thought, maybe we should grow it once again because it's very tasty. So the first thing they started to do, I told you. They started to tame the animals, by giving them food and also encourage them to stay around them. Started to protect them from the wild animals. That is how they turned out to be the herders. And secondly, they became the farmers also, because when there was existence, when there was growth of wheat, barley, rice, everybody started to collect them. They started to make sure that they segregate these crops so that they have something to eat, and some they can store them as seeds. Wow. How human civilization evolved is quite a good story. So now, since we know how farming came into existence and we also know how rearing and herding started, definitely there started a new way of life. Now, a new way of life means now you have plants to eat. You can survive on them for weeks together. You can grow them. You can water them. And you can make sure you drive out all the animals and plants from them. The excess of plants, the extra plants, that's called weeding. So there was a new way of life. It all started from being a hunter-gatherer, change in the climatic conditions, and then the coming up of plants like wheat, barley, rice. And people inherently started to grow them. They started to stay at the same place for long. They were quite happy to get food there. They started to water the plants, take care of the product and save it as food or maybe seed. And this storage, they had to do something. They couldn't put it there in the open. So what did they do? They started to make large clay pots. They started to dig pits in the ground. They even started to make these baskets so that they could store the food. The seeds, so that they can get the crop back. Intelligent people, very intelligent. Now, they had animals near them. They had food that was stored and they could grow it over again. So now they thought that how to make use of these animals that they have around them. And then it came to their mind that these animals, they are natural source of food. They are a store of food. Which means they not only provide you with milk, they not only provide you meat, but they can be reared as and when you want. With all the available tools, you can just easily hunt the animals that you have. Now we are going to continue learning the map, and let's move on to this blue squares. Now we've learned that these people who were so-called the hunter-gatherers, they turned out to be the farmers, they turned out to be the herders, but where did they live? So these blue points that you find, this Neolithic age, the New Age, around that time period, we find the evidence of farmers and herders here. So this is one of the sites that you find. This is Burzahum, that is in Srinagar. Now the archaeologists started to find evidence related to farmers and herders' life because they got animals and plants' bones at these sites. They found the remains of burnt grains. And they very well knew either these grains might have been burnt on purpose or accidentally they might have caught fire. So definitely there has to be existence of some kind of food crop. So I'm writing all these locations for you so that you know at which place do we have which site. These are all Neolithic sites. And one of the very important site that we are going to study in the next chapter also, it is Mehergarh. You definitely don't have to remember all the sites, but I'll definitely write them so that you do not forget them. Please have a close look so that you know where do we have all these Neolithic sites. For example, I've meant the most important is Mehergarh, and you can also remember about Burzahum. Then Halur is okay if you wish to remember, it is okay. But I request you to at least have a look. I have mentioned most of the sites for you. Right? So these are all the sites that you have. You'll have to look very deep into the map. All this is not given in your book, but I'm just trying to make sure that you remember them. So that is all for today's session. In case you like the session, please hit thumbs up. And in case you want me to speak up all these sites, I'll speak them up for you. You'll have Burzahum, it's in Srinagar, Jammu Kashmir, Mehergarh in Pakistan, Halur in Karnataka, Payama Pali, that is in Tamil Nadu, Mahagada and Koldiva in Uttar Pradesh, Daujali in Assam, Chirand in Bihar. So these are all the sites, the Neolithic sites of the New Age where we find the evidence of herders, farmers' existence. Thank you all. I'll see you in the next session, and please hit the subscribe button in case you guys like the session.